Okay, standard linear functions. Write an equation in slope-intercept form of the given line. So to write an equation in slope-intercept form, we format it y equals blank x plus blank, and then m goes here, b goes here. We have to find actual values for that. Now remember what m and b are called. M is known as the slope of the line, and b is the y-intercept where it crosses the y-axis. So let's do it. When we have the graph, we want to find our b first because I can easily find where it crosses the y-axis. It crosses it right there, and that's at 2. So I put a 2 right there. Now to find the slope, go forward and find a nut somewhere where it hits the grid, a point where you can easily tell where it's at and make a triangle out of it. So I would have to go up 2, so plus 2, and then to forward 3. So that's 2/3. Slope is rise over run, so 2/3. Boom, got it. Okay, next one, same idea. Format it the same way. Remember what these are called. M is your slope and B is the y-intercept. So again, the y-intercept is where it crosses this y-axis here. Right there is where it crosses, and that's at -1. So my b is -1. Now go forward, this is forward, and find another coordinate, probably right there, okay? So I make the triangle. 1, 2, 3, 4. It was down, so it's -4 and right 1. So it's -4 over 1, but then when we have a number over 1, we'll just put the integer itself. If you put it over 1, that's fine, but really it doesn't have to be. Okay, next. Now you're taking equations and graphing the line. Now to know how you should graph it, I would go to the left side of the equals and make a little wall. If all I have is y over here by itself with x on the other side, that means it's in slope y-intercept form. So to graph it, I'm going to use the slope and y-intercept to graph it. Okay, the slope is a number multiplied by x, which is -3. That has to be a ratio, so we put a 1 underneath it so that the integer becomes a ratio. Then the y-intercept's the other number, plus 5. Okay, so on the y-axis I go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then from there I go down 3 units and forward 1. So down 3, forward 1, down 3, forward 1. Then you take your little ruler and make the line. That's a horrid looking line. Okay. Okay, next one. On the left of the equals, make a wall. This time you got x and y together. That means it's in standard form. And to graph an equation in standard form, the most precise, efficient way is to set up 2 coordinates with x and y. And I will put 0 in for x there and 0 in for y there. This is called the y-intercept, and this is called the x-intercept. So to graph an equation in standard form, we'll find the x and y intercepts of the equation. So write that down twice. And then if x is 0 here, I'll parenthesize the x, I'll scribble it out and put 0, but 0 times -6 would just be 0. So now I have a much simpler equation where 3 times y equals 12, and I divide by 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So my y-intercept is 4. So here's my y, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now y is 0, so now I will substitute the 0 in for y, and then 0 times 3 gives me a product of 0, so I just cross that out. And now I have -6 times x equals 12, so to solve for x, I simply divide by -6. 12 divided by -6 is -2. So that is the x-intercept, so I go backwards 2 from the middle, 1, 2, not from the first point, from the middle. Okay, and I just have 2 points when I do that, okay? But that's all I need. To make a line, all you need is 2 points. So this is the method we want to use when the y is by itself with x on the other side. This is the method when the x and the y are together on one side of the equation. Now my next one, I've got an x there all by itself, but there's no y at all. That means it's known as constant form. So with constant form, I like to make 3 coordinates, if you remember. And it's x up there that equals -6. That is an x, not a very good looking one, but that means x is constantly -6. -6, -6, -6. And since y isn't even in the equation, we'll have that be 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I go left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, up 1. Left 6 up 2, and then backwards 6 up 3. And what I end up with is a line where we are constantly at -6 for the x. The y goes all over. But okay, that's your 3 basic types of linear graphs. Now, for problems number 6 through 9, write an equation in slope-intercept form with the following characteristics. So in 6 through 9, if I have to write an equation in slope-intercept form, I'm going to go y equals blank x plus blank, kind of like I did on those first 2 graphs, m and b. Y equals m, b. 7, 8, and 9. Remember, it was on 6 through 9. And then on 9 as well. I'll go back and figure out M and B, but first I'm going to set up the template for our thing. Okay, now the first one, the M is my slope and the B is my y-intercept. Now, when we don't see the graph, we want to do our M first. Well, it says the M right there is -2/3. So -2/3 is the M. Now the B, on all these B's, I'm going to write y equals M times x plus B, and then I get rid of the y, the M, and the x. Okay? The M is -2/3. Just look straight up to get your M. Then for your y and x, you replace those with the coordinate. X 6, y 5. So 5 replaces the y and 6 replaces the x. Now I line up my equals. I have 5 on this side. Now over here I have to find the product. I need to multiply -2/3 times 6, and that's going to be -4. I want you to put a 1 in front of the b so you know, okay, I have to get that -4 to a 0. I don't divide by -4. I get the -4 to 0 by adding 4. And 5 plus 4 is 9. 9 equals 1b. You can ditch the 1. So you got 9. You can divide by 1, but it doesn't really matter. So that's the answer. Okay, next one. Passing through -1, -2, and 4, 8. Now this time they didn't give me the slope. Okay. So to figure out the slope when we don't know it, we have to know the formula to apply. Y minus y divided by x minus x. So I like to start with the higher x coordinate. 4 to the bottom, 8 to the top. You got to put the x on the bottom. And then -1 to the bottom, -2 on top. Since we on both sides, both the top and bottom, you got minus by negative, you go plus plus. And here I've got 10, and here I've got 5. So 10 divided by 5 equals 2. So that's your slope, 2. Now B, you find B the same way you did up there. You find the B's the same way every time. Get rid of the y, the m, and the x. M is the 2 I just got. For y and x, you can pick either one. I'll go with this one. So 8 will replace my y, and then at that same time, 4 will replace my x. So 2 times 4 is 8 plus b. Put a 1 in front so you know, okay, I have to get the 8 to a 0. I don't divide by 8. I need to minus 8 so it becomes 0. 8 minus 8 is 0 equals 1b. And you can just get rid of the 1 and your y-intercept is 0, which you can have a y-intercept of 0. Technically, the equation would say in a textbook y equals 2x. It wouldn't say plus 0, but I have it lined up, so why not put it? Okay, parallel to y equals negative 2x plus 5 passing through 210. Okay, so this line here has to be parallel to this line. Remember what m is, the slope, and b is the y-intercept. Now the word parallel means the slopes have to be the same. So same slope. So what's the slope of this line? Well, since y is by itself, I just have to look at the other side, and negative 2 is my slope. I don't care about the plus 5. Okay, and then b, y equals mx plus b, m times x. So the m is at negative 2 from above. And then the 210 is where I put 10 in for y and then 2 in for x. Negative 2 times 2 is negative 4 plus b. Get the negative 4 to a 0 by adding 4, and that's 14. 14 equals 1b, which means 14 equals b. Answer. Okay, now the next one, this line is perpendicular to y equals negative 5x plus 3, and it passes through negative 15, 4. Now, perpendicular is different from parallel. Parallel means the lines will this line and this line will never cross because they have the same slope. Perpendicular, they cross, but they form a 90-degree angle at their crossing point. So with perpendicular, the slopes aren't the same. What we need to do is simply flip the slope and change the sign. So what's the slope in this line that I was given? Well, y is by itself, so the slope right there is negative 5. But I need to flip that. So first I'll make it a fraction. I'll put a 1 under it, but I need to then flip it to 1/5. And then change the sign. So if it's negative up there, I want to keep this positive right here. So my m is 1/5. And then b is y equals m times x plus b. So my m is 1/5. Okay, and then 4 replaces y, and then negative 15 replaces x. So I line up my equals. On a calculator, I find 1/5 times negative 15. It's negative 3. And get that negative 3 to a 0 by adding it. So 4 plus 3 is 7. 7 equals b. And there's the perpendicular equation to this. Okay, now you got a couple of absolute value graphs. So the parent function of absolute values is 0, 0, and then if I put 1 in the absolute value, that's 1. If I put negative 1, it's 1. If I put 2, it's 2. Negative 2 is 2. But I have what's known as a k-value. K-value means we translate these points, all of them, down 2. K-values are up and down. So all of them go down 2 because minus 2. So down 2. Then repeat the same process. I've done that many times before. And there is the actual graph. Okay, another absolute value, so I graph the parent first, and then I'll just translate the points accordingly. But inside the absolute value, that's an h value. So on the translation, h values go left to right, but they go the opposite of what it says. So plus 3, I normally think this way, but since it's inside, it goes opposite, so it will go left 3. So 1, 2, 3. And same old song and dance. There it is. Okay, word problems. An online class charges students $600 for registration. Students are charged $350 per credit hour. If I budgeted $6,900, how many credit hours can I take? First, let's make an X-Y table. Label your X and Y. You have dollars and hours. Time is always X, so the hours would be X, and then the money would be Y. So, first sentence, an online class charges students $600 for registration. So I put 600, and since it doesn't say anything about hours in that sentence, it's 0. Okay, then they're charged $3.50 per hour. Well, per hour means I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to add 350. So that's $9.50. That's going to be 1,000. This is going to be 1,300, and then plus another 350 is going to be 1,650. So I get the idea there. Don't put the last number in the table. Okay, so I'll make my 3 boxes because we do have a beginning amount, 600. So dollars and hours. Hours is X, dollars is Y. So per, dollars per hour. Well, what was I adding every time? I'm adding 350 all the time. So 350 is my slope, 350x. Now, so I put 350x plus, now the first number before I added 350, I had 600. So it's 600 plus 350x equals Y. Okay, then 6,900 has to go into the equation. Now I'm solving for the hours, so I'm solving for x. So that means I got to put the number in for y, the 6,900. So 600 plus 350x equals 6,900. Now you got to get solved for the x. So get the 600 to a 0 through subtracting. So I have 350 times x. 6,900 minus 600 is 6,300. And then dividing time by 350. I don't know what that is off the top of my head. 10.28, whatever, okay? So we can only afford 10. So 10 hours. Okay, next problem. 13. Pool is being drained of its water at a constant rate each minute. After draining for 5 minutes, 17,000 gallons remain in the pool. After it should say D, not draining, not raining. After draining for 10 minutes, 16,000 gallons remain in the pool. How many minutes will it take the pool to empty from its starting capacity? Meaning, when does it get to 0 gallons? Now label your X and Y. You got minutes would be your X because that's time, and gallons would be the Y. Now the first sentence, it doesn't say anything, any numbers at all. So a pool is being drained from water at a constant rate each minute. So let's not put anything. Then after draining for 5 minutes, 17,000 gallons are in the pool. So I put 5, 17,000. After 10 minutes, 16,000 gallons remain in the pool. So that's 10, 16,000. Now look at this. At 0 minutes, you had to have some gallons there because it goes from, some to there to here. So that's called B. So that means I'm going to have to apply Y minus Y, X minus X to find the gallons per every single minute, because right now I just know what it does every 5 minutes. And then Y equals MX plus B to find this B amount right here. So I've got minutes and gallons. So X is minutes, Y is gallons. So per, gallons per minute. Again, I know what it does every 5 minutes, but every 1 minute I don't know because it skips. So I apply the Y minus Y, X minus X. Okay, so the Y's, I'll go 17,000 minus 16,000. The X's, I'll go 5 minus 10. So that's 1,000 divided by negative 5, and that's negative 200. Okay, so negative 200x. Now you got to find the beginning amount. You still don't know that. So that's when I apply the Y equals mx plus b, m times x plus b. Now my m I already know is negative 200. X and Y, I need to use a combo from the problem. They have to be in the same sentence, or you can just look at your table. I'll go 5 and 17,000. So 5 minutes, 17,000 gallons. So minutes is X, gallons is Y. By the way, you can't go 5 and 16,000. That's not going to work. You can't go 17,000 and 10. Combo means it has to be from the problem. So Y is 17,000. And then X is 5. Negative 200 times 5 is negative 1,000. Put a 1, get the negative 1,000 to 0. If you add 1,000 to 17,000, that's 18,000. Okay, so 18,000 is your B. So plus and equals Y. Now you have your equation. So you have 18,000 plus negative 200X equals Y. So minutes, I'm solving for X. I got to put 0 and Y has got to equal 0 because I want to know when it's empty. So 18,000 plus negative 200X equals 0. Get the 18,000 to a 0 through subtraction. That gives me negative 18,000. And then it's time to divide by negative 200. So 18,000 divided by negative 18,000 divided by negative 200. I got 90. This is going to take an hour and a half or 90 minutes. Okay, I need to put on my paper what you have. 5, 0.5 up there in the corner. Okay, the following table shows revenue raised in U.S. theme parks. By the way, 1990 is 0. That's 2 then, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Okay. Make a scatter plot from the data and draw a line of best fit. So again, the years go here, that's your X. And then the revenue, the money, goes here. Years, let's number by 2s to 16. 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Now here, I told you where to start. You're going to start with 5, and then you're going to go up by 0.5 till you're past 11.5. So 5.5, 6, 6.5, 7, 7.5, 8, 8.5, 9, 9.5, 10, 10.5, 11, 11.5. Okay. So 0, 5.7. 2, 6.5. 4 is with 7 even. 6 is with 7.9, just basically right below the 8. 10 is with 8 is with 8.7. 10 is with 9.6. 12 is with 9.9, right below the 10. 14 is with 10.8, just below between the 10.5 and the 11. And then 16 is all the way up to 11.5. Okay, there's a scatter plot. Now draw a line of best fit. Put your ruler on the first point and then get through as many of those as you can. This one ends up being pretty predictable. Okay, write an equation in slope-intercept form that represents your line. So MB. Now if I see the graph, I want to find the B first, man. Okay, where does it cross this y-axis? Right there. That is 5.7. So if you have a graph, do your B first, man. Now you're not in a good position to make the little triangle, so you are going to want to apply y minus y, x minus x here. So I'm going to circle 2 points on this line. I'll go above the 6 and the 12. Okay. So I make that into coordinates 6 and 12. So 6 is with 7.9, and then 12 is with 9.90. Then you just put them into the formula. Okay, start with your higher x, xy. Okay, 12 to the bottom, 990 to the top, 7.6 to the bottom, 7.9. Okay, subtract the top, you get 2 even. Subtract the bottom, 12 minus 6 is going to be 6. Now 2 divided by 6 is a decimal, so I'll just put 0.33. Don't put the repeating right there. Okay, now use your equation to predict the revenue in U.S. theme parks in the year 2012. That means basically, you write down your equation. Just copy that down. Y equals 0.33x plus 5.7. And you're going to put 22 years into the equation for x. And your y, you just plug that in, okay? You just figure out what 0.33 times 22 plus 5.7 is. 12.96. Now put a dollar sign and put the word billion next to it.